right, welcome everybody. This is ReFi Meets the World. We are on to our technical third event, I guess. Shingai from opening remarks, first expert panel. It's amazing. We're only a couple hours in. I feel like we've been doing this for 8 hours already. My brain is exploding from so much cool stuff we're chatting about. I mean, genuinely, I'm you know me, I'm long-winded and opinionated, so I could rant about how much fun I'm having, but I'm gonna shut up and let incredible people teach me and everybody else listening some more. So with that being said, we have a representative from Moss, and I'll let you take it away, Shingai.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so we have Gearhead here from Moss. Moss is another climate-based crypto project that focuses on tokenizing carbon offsets. They've been around since I believe 2009. They've been doing some incredible things, have a lot of really high-profile partnerships. They're really one of the exemplary sort of exemplary projects in this carbon offset space, showing us how things can actually get done in the global south. So, Gearhead, let's take it away. First, I want to thank you for joining us. I know that I had spoke to a couple members of your team, I think Renan and a couple other people who mentioned that you guys are actively participating in COP27. Is that correct?
Hi guys, can you hear me well?
Yeah.
That's perfect. Actually, I'm Renan, CTO of Moss.
Okay.
CTO from Moss. I am here at COP27. We had some lectures here. It was very nice. We met Flow Carbon, Tucan guys, Ayeta, Verra, all the main players on the ReFi space. It was, let's say, from last year to now, I believe it was the best conference we had because we are very aligned at the things we are working with, and I am very excited about the future and what we are not only Moz but as a ecosystem building right now. I believe in a more transparent future where we will see let's say verifiable data since the beginning of the project, and uh, as I like to say is you can imagine a project with 4 main sessions: climate, biodiversity, GIS, which is basically the maps and showing all the information we need, and community. All of them receiving data from the area via probably Starlink internet, and send, for example, for biodiversity, we can put cam traps and send the animals that we are taking pictures live at the project, and send that to a blockchain, creating NFTs, for example. So I'm very excited from what we are building right now.
Yeah, I'm really really interested. You mentioned the point about alignment across the ecosystem, so not just Moss, but other of these big names. I want to get to that in a second, but first I want to start with just for folks here who may not be extremely familiar with what Moss has been doing, just a little bit of background about the project, and from where you guys started back in 2009 to where you are today. I mean, you guys have been around for a long time,
Yeah,
and so you've seen change.
Yeah, actually, we started at 2020, not
Okay.
2009.
Okay.
It's
My bad.
only 2 years, but it seems 10 years by now. We um, we started by looking into this sector, and this sector is totally manual. You guys are probably are use it or are studying the green asset space or the refi space.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
when we started by looking into the projects inside the Amazon rainforest, making due diligence on them to learn how it was made at the time, and we started by buying carbon credits from them and selling it for companies and persons that would like to have carbon credits in their wallet, or also for offsets. Then we realized that by putting it into blockchain, it would allow a lot of transparency. Also, it would bring liquidity to the sector, and it would help a lot on environmental claims by offsetting carbon credits or burning tokens direct on chain, and send the creating a immutable transaction for that. So in that sense, we created the MCO2 token, which was probably one of the first ones from the traditional markets, carbon credits to be tokenized. And then we listed in several exchanges like Mercado Bitcoin Brazil, which is the largest one, Coinbase and Gemini in the US, and also at the end of 2021, we went to Klima along with uh, Tucan guys, uh, and also we helped to create the NST pool as well.
Yeah. So when you talk about alignment, then especially in the context of COP27 this year, what are some of the things that you're seeing some of these the big names, these big projects in the carbon offset space moving towards in a collaborative way?
We've been working with several players from the ReFi ecosystem. I can say that Tucan is a very near player as well. Um, Also, we've been looking to the two-way bridge that they have created with biocarbon registry, and
Mhm.
probably we will deploy some projects inside biocarbon registry to tokenize afterwards. So I'm more excited. When I left Brazil 2 weeks ago, uh, now I am seeing that we can grow enough faster pace, I would say, and even without trusting one single player, which is probably the major registry we are working with, which is, or the two main registries that we are working with, which is Gold Standard and Verra. So I think in the future we will see several alternatives and good ones that we
Yeah.
can rely on to tokenize carbon credits.
No, that's interesting. So I developed solar across Southern Africa, and one of the things that I've been really excited or interested in doing is monetizing the carbon credits that provides sort of investors with some additional returns that get them excited. But I saw that for both Vera and Gold Standard, it was something like an 18-month process to actually verify the carbon offsets. In terms of the newer players that you're seeing, is there a way to sort of get around that? It seems very slow given, how fast things can happen on chain.
Yeah, I believe it will change, not as fast as we want. For example, if we go through the biocarbon registry, I'm not the solar or renewable energy guy. I'm more. I know more the Red Plus methodologies, so I can talk on that. But for
Mhm.
example, we have a very manual process, which is the forest inventory, where people literally they go to the Amazon rainforest, they measure the trees, and they
Mhm.
establish the carbon baseline. You can
Yeah.
imagine for 100,000 hectares, someone going there and making 100 samples, points that they should visit, staying 15 days inside the woods and taking the measurements. That, I believe, we won't leave that process in a year, but what we are doing is at the time we are going through the woods, we are in parallel creating an automated algorithm which relies on technology, images from satellites and other sources like Airbus. They provide images from probably the planes they can take from the forest, and they can send us to analyze the deforested area, the impact that could occur in some days. So in parallel, we are building a system that I believe in the future will replace all those manual steps. But for now, I believe for the integrity of the sector and not to create so much enemies, we'll move by doing what the industry has been doing forever, since the beginning.
Mhm. Yeah, that's pretty exciting to hear some of that change. So that's kind of what you were referencing earlier about the different like technology stack that's required to support all of this.
Yeah, you. Sorry, I didn't get your question, but I believe you wanted me to just go on the stack we are working with to automate it, to automate all those processes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So uh, let's start. There are 4 or 5 main sections or parts of the PD, the project design. One is community. That part we can use technology, but it's probably the hardest part because you have to do surveys, you have to go and know what people do inside the area to help them. So probably that part we can use an Uber-like application where people around their area will take pictures, will follow the people that are living inside the project area and send that information through the internet to the for example to Moss. But
Mhm.
that part requires a lot of study and to follow people's daily lives. That's one part that I think it will be the last one that will try to change the process.
Yeah.
Another one is biodiversity. There are forms of capture, gathering data from the biodiversity inside the project area, which is we can put cam traps and send that information through Wi-Fi using Starlink, for example.
Mhm.
Uh, we can gather the sound of the area and try to map all the sounds that are going on inside the forest, and then try to identify the animals that are running or living there. And also, the last but not least, we can uh, gather water from the rivers and try to find DNA on that water. It's a little bit tricky, but um, I believe biodiversity is is one of the parts that we will work for sure, because as we will see in the future as well, the creation of biodiversity credits, which could be above of the carbon credits inside the area. Um, and now then we have community, biodiversity, we have climate. This is one that we've been working a lot, which is to make sure that the forest keeps standing, in our case, And we have updated images and also sources from the government in Brazil that we are tracking 10 years before, since 2020, since 2010, sorry. And we can analyze every year the baseline and see if there are effective actions to prevent the deforestation. And that part mostly is done by using Google Earth Engine and all the sources that are publicly available for us from the government and from uh, satellites that can send updated images for us. And I told about biodiversity, community, climate, and um, also the last but not least are the property deeds. There are several problems in Brazil around making projects inside public lands, and that's so hard that we may have to crawl every single source of uh, go- government issue certificates and try to find overlaps with the land that we are working with. So that part as well, it's one of we are well, very well evolved in this system that we are creating to monitor the changes on the private and public landscape.
It was interesting. The one of the things that we heard in the last panel was just sort of the changing regulatory environment. The last two speakers, one was based in the UK, the other was based in the US. I'm curious from the standpoint of Brazil's government, how have they seen the work that Moss is doing? Have they been supportive? Have they just sort of been hands off, or have they countered or been an obstacle for you?
Look, I think Brazil is opening his eyes to the opportunity we have. For
Mhm,
example, here in COP, we were talking with the Bank of Development, which
mhm,
is a public bank, and they are making a process right now to buy future carbons credits from our projects and other developers inside Brazil. So they are starting to believe that we have uh, an economy that can be built around Amazon rainforest, which is very good for us. And
mhm,
I believe it will increase next year and in the future the support that we will see from the government. But until now we were alone basically. But this first process that they are willing to buy futures and help to finance projects inside the Amazon rainforest to conserve and preserve are, let's say, the first actions that we are really seeing from them, which is very good for us.
mhm. And I'm curious, like this is like also a very difficult thing to get started, at first. Um, I'm wondering that initial capital that you guys were able to raise through your blockchain ecosystem. Was it primarily from Brazil, or was it primarily from investors outside of Brazil?
No, it was a mix from, we made a very large buy on 2019 from the project,
Mhm,
and it was a mix of Brazil and some VCs abroad.
mhm,
And now we were in a very hard year, I would say, not only for crypto, but inflation. Ukraine, you are seeing the price on chain.
mhm,
Uh, but I believe we are arriving in an inflection point where
mhm,
the prices are too low that it becomes an opportunity for everyone.
Yeah.
If you see some retailers, they are selling offsets with the same credit that you guys can find not only on Moss, Tokenized, like Token, or even C3 or MC2, that is being sold on retailers for $30, and we can see the prices on chain are between $1 and $3, which is a very huge difference in my point of view.
Yeah. So maybe help us also understand a bit about, you're talking about prices of the offsets, because I look at like the huge price differences between the European carbon market. I think like the carbon market there is something like $75 per credit. I think the United States, California, I think it's like 30, 35. And then now you're saying on chain down to $1 to $3. So maybe help me understand like the dynamics behind such huge difference in pricing for essentially the same product underneath.
Yeah, it's a very complex market. It actually, I would like to be more simple, but right now we have the difference between the regulated market and the voluntary market. The regulated market implies or mm, it makes mandatory the compensation or the carbon offsets for some companies. That's why, let's say in Europe, Ford, Volkswagen has to pay to, I don't know, just one example for Mercedes, uh, and transfer money from one company to another because it is polluting more than the cap allowed by the government. So the market dynamic is completely different from others, and that's what you will see for European allowances, and also in California, where Ford has to pay to Tesla the amount of emissions they have above the limit. In voluntary market, people or companies, they are doing offsets because, in my opinion, our consumer is changing his behavior to a more sustainable one, where they demand to the products of the companies, they should have this type of, let's say, more sustainable mindset, way of doing things, and then they start to check what are the things they can do, and carbon offsets are, let's say, the first step, in my opinion. First, you start by offsetting the emissions from your product, from your process. Then you start to think how it could be improved to have less emissions, because the consumer isn't demanding that. In that space, you have an auto regulated market, which is mainly created by international registries called the big ones are Verra and Gold Standard. So those guys, they establish the process and methodologies you should go into to create a project and validate and generate carbon credits. And that market, they have a, let's say, broader price range, because you can have a renewable project, a conservation project inside the Amazon rainforest, or a carbon sequestration, and each of those projects, they have a base cost. For example, to reforest one area, you have one cost. To conserve one area, you have one cost. To establish a energy plant, uh, solar energy plant inside some area, you have a cost. So that sort of creates a new price for each carbon credit, which ranges by the type of the project that is underlying the carbon credit. So if you want to know more about the price of renewables, you should understand how it will be created, the carbon credit, and also for RED Plus and also for carbon sequestration. But basically, we have in my mind, I see renewables as the first price range. Then we have the RED Plus. Then we have reforestation. Then we have carbon sequestration. Basically, we can find not on the on-chain prices between $3 and $5 for renewables, $5 and $10 for RED Plus and NBS solutions, nature-based solutions. And then you start to find the more expensive ones because the cost to reforest an area is bigger than to conserve, and carbon sequestration as well. So we can find carbon sequestration projects ranging from $30 to $40. I don't know if it is clear. You can research more on. I like to see the one site called carboncredits.com, where they follow all prices from different solutions, different carbon credit projects. Hi. Hey guys.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Oh my gosh. I think this is absolutely fascinating, and I'm very curious on. So you're at speaking at COP27, not speaking. I'm sorry, attending COP27. I'm curious. Have you been in contact or done any like crypto and NFT type conferences, or are you been focused on climate based conferences?
No, I started a blockchain tech company in Brazil. I'm the blockchain tech guy for Moss, and I've been to Bitcoin conference. I've been to La BitConf, um, several. I was not in DevCon Bogota, but I would like to be there. But mainly, I came from crypto.
And that's incredible because that is clearly like it's the tool we're trying to use, right? The blockchain mixed with crypto, mixed with NFTs and currency, and to pull on that, we like to call them normies, right? The crypto normies, the everyday person who would be interested in this stuff if they had the right tools to learn them. So I'm just curious, and I can throw it back to Shingi after this. I'm just curious if what success you found in education at that like entry level. Has that been quite a step stool for you to get past of just getting people to understand what this all means and why it's important?
Yeah, for me, the first step is to understand what ReFi means. ReFi means that we can carry assets that instead of doing harm for Earth, they can do very good and they can have a very positive impact. That's the first step. When you realize that wouldn't like to carry dollars on my pocket, even Bitcoin, I would prefer if there are enough liquidity to carry on carbon credits because they are having a very good impact for our society in the future. I understand that those are the assets that our generation, the next ones, will realize to be the best form of the best social convention that we can create to transfer value. That's my opinion on it. For when you understand that, you becomes a carbon credit maximalist and not a Bitcoin maximalist. I love Bitcoin. Do not misunderstand me, but the impact we can do from carbon credits or even other green assets for humanity, and using blockchain for that, mm, it's amazing for me. That's the first step, and then you start to study how the global south or the development countries can uh, help on that. And as a Brazilian, we have in 40% of our forests inside our country and not trying to create assets of it. It's the wrong way to evolve. So for me, understanding the market you are and how you can help it, the second part. Yeah. And the last but not least, I think this sector requires a lot of technology because it's very slow and manual. You can imagine people from traveling from Italy to Amazon rainforest, charter flights after they arrive to Brazil. They go into the woods. They stay there, uh, running on boats and for hours to make measurements inside the trees. It's a big opportunity for tech guys and guys that are in crypto that like to to be involved in technology. So those three aspects, in my opinion, um, are the steps that made me realize that ReFi it's a very special space.
Yeah, and I genuinely appreciate that take because it is so important to put that into perspective of the travel and the overall energy it takes and just the constant dedication that these activists and these entrepreneurs, these mixtures of them, have to endure to continue this fight at the doorstep. And I just have one last question for you, Gearhead, because I appreciate the knowledge you've dropped today. And I know it's difficult sometimes to communicate, like I said, to laymen and to some people that will be listening in on this either now or later. And I'm just curious on a selfish personal note, would you consider, and this might be a little philosophical for you, would you consider what you're doing uh, as a form of revolutionary mind? Like, would you consider yourself a revolutionary?
Uh, in the sense that I believe we can carry assets that change the world to to a better world. Yes, as if you we study since the beginning why we made paper to be the value that we transfer between our transactions, why we choose gold. What's the use of gold? To make some jewelry or use it in computers? But why we hold it? What's the impact they have on our or on our daily lives? When we talk about carrying carbon credits or other green assets that will born in the future, probably like biodiversity credits, the underlying asset that is carrying that one carbon credit is a positive impact for our society, for our sons. If my legacy is to change the mindset for our generation and the next ones by changing gold to carbon credits, I yeah, my ideal for life is that.
Thank you so
Wow.
much, and power to you. I'll hand it over to Shingy.
Yeah, that was really powerful. And I apologize for my technical difficulties. We kind of lost internet there for a second. But one last question that I have. You spoke a few times about biodiversity assets, sort of as a different vertical, if you will, from the carbon offsets. And I'm curious about the difference in, or the potential difference in tokenomics for the assets that are focused on the biodiversity side of things.
Yeah, there are nowadays there are questions between projects where where they haze, which is look my project they have we have jaguars, we have endangered species, and your probably don't have the same or have less. And probably in the future, we will, with very transparent and verifiable data inside the projects, we will see what are the animals that are being protected by data actions and somehow create forms of pay for that. And then that difference of prices that we are talking about will probably reduce for carbon credits and be adapted in other form of assets. Let's say the carbon credit is $10, but nowadays you pay 7 for a project because they don't have jaguars, and you pay 12 for another one that's protecting the jaguars inside the Amazon forest. Why you do that? Because you don't have the form to pay for the actions they are doing for the species that are important to protect or are in some sort of danger already around the world. So what I believe, we will see forms of creation of biodiversity credits to compensate that, and the price of carbon credits will become more in a commoditized way.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm really excited about this proliferation of different asset classes within the green space. I think that's going to allow us to create a very robust economy that's all asset backed in the very near future. What do you think your very last question? I promise. But what do you think your time horizon is to start actually popularizing biodiversity, and like what would be some targets that you guys have for yourself over the next 12 months to accomplish?
Yeah, I believe biodiversity will come after 12 months, but
Mhm.
this year, if we finalize it with, uh, let's say, some standards that allows for tokenization, uh,
Mhm.
will be a win for us for carbon
Mhm.
credits, for the market. And
Mhm.
also what we need to work, man, is how we standardize this project data in a way that we create more integrity.
Mhm.
Why? Because a design, project description document (PDD) or project description (PD), which is made to generate carbon credits, it's like your college paperwork based on scientific papers and reference. So what it means that if I try to write one, I will find very good reference and I will find a number of carbon credits, which is, let's say, 1 million tons per year. And you will try to write the same PD for the same area, and will rely on other sources, and
Mhm.
could be scientific proven as well. And you will find, let's say, 1.5 million tons per year, uh, which would lead to price discussion and integrity discussion, because you are generating 500,000 tons more than I in the
Mhm.
same area. Obviously, DPDs are not doing the people, they don't do twice the PDs, but it allows for discussion. What I believe, we believe we should become more like the industry, where we have more standardized process, and the usage of technology will help us to have more accurate data and standardized data around the carbon credit generation process.
Yeah.
That will be our goals this year.
Yeah,
this
that's a
next.
very lofty goal. I'm rooting for you guys. I'm very supportive of that.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll let you get back to things in Egypt. Again, really awesome that you guys are there in person to actually see what is happening. But at the same time, you have your other foot sort of across the world in a very different space. But yeah, this has been Moss. This has been Renan from Moss. Thank you so much for joining us in this AMA.
Thank you guys for the space. I wish you luck. I wish that you understand this mission that we are by changing the social convention for the assets that we are using to transfer value. And probably in the future, we'll find the right solution to be more positive around the impact we do from the actions that from the daily actions we take, and that would be nice if we find more people that are aligned on it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're definitely aligned with you guys, and I think that everybody that's here and the folks that are listening to this, I think they're all aligned with you as well. So, I mean, hopefully, I'm looking at all of these projects to kind of talk.
I think maybe we lost Shingy for a second. No worries. But again, we appreciate you coming on. I think maybe his internet cut. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna toss on some music just to kind of guide us through the next panel discussion. Again, thanks everyone for listening. My friend, I appreciate all the knowledge you're dropping, and we will send you this YouTube when we get it uploaded so you can share with your community. In the meantime, enjoy the music. If you want to turn down the tempo bot, as a reminder, just go ahead and right click it or long click it and you can turn it down. Or if you want to rage, turn it up. We'll see you in about 10 minutes for the next panel discussion.
I'm